Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk, marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. I share with you insight from the various hats that I have worn that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been given them. I share a lot of that here and on this podcast. I wanted to challenge your thoughts and inspire you to grow. So together we can operate in excellence. And today I want to have a conversation with you about a hard truth. Because lots of times we don't want to hear a challenging thought or a hard truth that'll make us do something different. You see, when things in your life happen and they just seem to pop up, what we often do is listen to what everybody else around us has to say about that situation. What is often difficult to do is to sit in your stuff. And you're going to have to take the time at some point. But I want to encourage you, do it sooner rather than later. When you find that you're in the midst of chaos or turmoil, pause, rest. Find a quiet spot that does not have all the noise that's happening in the world. It is in those still moments that I got the opportunity to get clear insight. And for those of you that know me, you recognize that in my quiet moments, when I really need insight, when I really need strategy, I ask heaven to intervene on my behalf. So my moments of prayer, Jesus seems to give me a download in those quiet times. But you have to get quiet enough to hear his voice. It is in those quiet moments that we can get perception, that perspective of what can take place and get a different vision. If you are always hearing everything and everybody around you, then you got this thought, this thought, that, all of that stuff happening at one time. But if you just take a moment to sit still, then you can get the chance to know, what do you really think? What do you really think about the situation that you are currently in? Is it a situation that you find that there is something that you could actually do to move you out of it? Because there are some circumstances that take place that we have no control. We know we want to move now, but we're just not in a position. If you take the time to be still in the moment, you'll often get clarity that this is a space where you can create a strategy and have incremental moments of movement that can get you whole, that can get you healed, that can get you to your best position. But it won't happen if you choose to let everything around you keep happening. Choose different. Today, make a decision. Is it something that you know that sort of gnawing at you a little bit that you want to ask somebody else? I'm not saying don't ask them. I'm just saying don't ask them first. First, take 5 minutes. 5 minutes was all I had for a little while in some of the things that was happening in my life because I did not believe that I had any more time than that. So I give myself 5 minutes to pause. If I was feeling some type of way, because there are emotional triggers that cause you to want to go to someone and your immediate reaction is to go there because it's what you're used to. When you choose to disrupt your own patterns, you got to give yourself time to get out of those patterns. And I was the one that always asked somebody's opinion on everything that was happening in my life. It was the people pleaser in me. And if you got a people pleaser in you, then you are wanting everybody else's opinion on your life. I often tell my children, your life is a result of the choices that you make. You can get others' thoughts about it, but you choose what you will do. And sometimes the situations that we are in, we don't want to be in because we kind of chose it. And we know on a subconscious level that we chose that hot mess. And so we want to ask somebody else's opinion so that if it gets worse, then we can blame them for it. Oh, it feels pretty good if you can say, well, if you hadn't told me, I would have never done X, Y, or Z. No. Be honest with yourself. Sit in the middle of your truth and recognize, even if somebody else gives you a thought process that they think will be supportive, you still have to decide to follow it. So at the end of the day, You still chose. I've shared recently that whenever we have a problem, that problem collides with the circumstance, the people that's around them, and your decisions. Every problem that you encounter, you have a hand in it because you make a decision. You either make a decision not to do anything, which is still a decision, or you make a decision to be active in something. I want to encourage you. Be intentional with the situations in your life. Start looking at what's going on. And if it's a tough decision, because we have some of those, give yourself some time to think about it. If I have to make some really hard choices, I give myself first 24 hours to mull over it. I don't make any decisions, even though that is a decision, but I choose not to make an active decision for 24 hours. At the end of that 24-hour period, then I go back and I start giving myself what I often share with you all. Some of you have heard me share my clarifying tool called the 3 C's. I use the 3 C's to help me deal with strategic points. The first C is getting clarity. I get clear about what I'm dealing with, thus getting to the truth of what's going on. Be honest with you about what's happening around your world. The second C is, am I going to connect with something in this, or am I going to close it off? That's the third C. So in that decision point, it gives me the opportunity to decide after 24 hours, get clear. Then I'll decide, am I moving closer or am I closing some stuff off? Once I know that, then it gives me more of an idea to come up with some other strategies of what I need to do for that moment to get me through that situation. These are the things that we don't often take the time to do on our own. We want to have somebody else give us clarity about what's happening in our world. They can add a thought that you can use as a point of analysis. But don't let somebody make the final decisions for your life and just go along with it. There will come a time where you will resent them for the choices that they made in your life when you acquiesce the throne. There will come a time when you will recognize that the situation still needs more. And because they are not you, they gave you a thought that will be more supportive of them. Now, I'm not saying don't take advice because there is some good in having some wise people pour into you. Get the information from those that have gone through the journey. Find somebody that has been in your situation because in those individuals, there is something that you can get as great nuggets. I remember getting some insight that I needed from authors, speakers, and coaches that I knew walked through my situation. As I was trying to gain a little more insight, they gave me one something that I could take away, that I could apply in my life. And that one something gave me what I needed to interrupt my pattern and get to a better position. Because when I made that one change was a connecting point to another change, which was a connecting point to another change. And at some point in my life, I recognized that I had enough pieces that I can pull together to give me a clearer perspective. Things weren't so fuzzy because I used the knowledge that they gave me. Things were a little more crisp in my decision making because I know they walked through and I saw them on the other side. When I share information with you, I share it from a stance of already been healed and already been whole. I know what I share gives you a support, but you have to decide if it's the support that you need right now. And if you want to dig deeper and go a little bit further in that discussion point, that's why I always ask and always offer. If you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to reach out to me because there is no way possible that I can give in a setting like this, which is providing some great insight, but it's on a generic level. See, you can go into different environments on the other podcasts that you see and get some generic insight. But when it comes down to the specifics of what you need, what's happening in your particular moment, you may need somebody to dig a little deeper. You may need to have somebody that has gone through other experiences that they may be able to share. For instance, here's a hard truth that took me a minute to decide to even want to share. You see, when I was going through my divorce, I knew that I was going to have to be responsible for everything. And even though I'm the type of person that doesn't shy away from responsibility, I just didn't want to have the burden of everything on my shoulders. I found comfort in saying, well, we made this decision together, and so we got to figure out how to get out of it. No, I couldn't make those decisions anymore. Once I chose to get divorced, the hard truth for me was, Tanya, the decisions are all on you. And anything that happens, it will be clear to everybody in the world that you made those decisions. So if I made decisions that put me in a position that was not supportive of me or my babies, everybody knew it was me. Had nobody I could blame. Sometimes we find comfort in knowing that we can defer our choices by giving them to somebody else. I had to deal with the hard truth that I was the one that was going to be seen to be responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I had to be okay with that. Now that part was not the easy part. But eventually I got more confident in my decisions because I started figuring out early on how I could get enough input to give me the best possible decision. And then I took a moment, and you all know that I'm an electrical engineer by discipline, project manager by trade. So I did a risk analysis on my life. What choice will I make in this moment? What's the risk associated in this moment? And I had to make a decision not to look too far down the path. Because if you look too far down the path thinking that this is what I know I want the future to look like, but you are so far away from it, make the decision for the next moment. Because some of you have heard me say, I had to live my life often, moment by moment, because a minute was way too long. So choose what you need to choose in this moment and be okay with it until you have to make the next one. And if you make the choice in this moment that is not supportive of you, that's where I encourage you to give yourself a different timeline. For major decisions, for me, it was 24 hours before I really decided what I would do next. If it was a simple decision, I may decide, okay, I'm going to choose this. And in 5 minutes, I'll see if it's working. And if it's not working in 5 minutes, I'll choose something else. You get the opportunity to do that. You get the opportunity to choose. When you are faced with a hard challenge, you get to choose. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. Face the truth that's happening in your life. The truth is not easy to deal with. And sometimes you just don't want to be the one that is known making those decisions, because if it goes south, you are the one that has to be held accountable. But make them anyway. Give yourself a time frame so that you can assess what's happening. If it's a major decision, give yourself at least 24 hours by yourself, just to hear without everybody else's chatter. If it's a small decision, give yourself 5 minutes in that moment so that you know that you're hearing your voice and not the voice of everybody or everything around you. Because the world is loud and the world will give you all kinds of thoughts. But the decisions that you make, you got to be okay in the seat of your soul. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work For Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And if you're on Instagram, you can join me live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we can continue the conversation or we can start a new one. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.